Germany in the early 1930s was a nation teetering on the precipice. The Great Depression had cast a long shadow over the land, leaving millions jobless and desperate. The Treaty of Versailles, signed after World War I, had imposed harsh penalties on Germany, including territorial losses and crippling reparations payments. The Weimar Republic, Germany's fledgling democracy, seemed unable to stem the tide of economic and social unrest. Into this maelstrom of despair stepped Adolf Hitler, a charismatic demagogue who offered simple solutions to complex problems. Hitler promised to restore Germany to its former glory, to avenge the humiliation of Versailles, and to create a new order based on racial purity and national strength. His message resonated with a population hungry for hope and eager for a scapegoat upon which to blame their misfortunes. The years between 1933 and 1938 witnessed the swift and brutal transformation of Germany from a struggling democracy into a totalitarian dictatorship. Hitler and his Nazi party consolidated their grip on power, dismantling democratic institutions, crushing dissent, and unleashing a wave of terror against their perceived enemies. This period serves as a chilling reminder of the fragility of freedom and the seductive allure of extremism. It is a story of broken promises, shattered illusions, and the descent of a nation into the abyss of barbarity. The economic devastation of the Great Depression played a pivotal role in Hitler's rise to power. Germany, heavily reliant on foreign loans and investment, was hit particularly hard by the global economic collapse. By 1932, unemployment had soared to over 6 million, leaving nearly a third of the workforce idle. The Weimar Republic, already weakened by political instability and internal divisions, seemed powerless to alleviate the suffering of its people. Traditional political parties offered little solace, their rhetoric ringing hollow in the ears of a population facing hunger and despair. Hitler, with his keen understanding of mass psychology, recognized the opportunity presented by the economic crisis. He exploited the widespread anger and resentment towards the Weimar government, portraying himself as a strong leader who could restore order and prosperity. He tapped into the deep wellspring of national pride, promising to make Germany great again. Hitler's message resonated particularly strongly with the middle class, who had seen their savings wiped out by hyperinflation in the 1920s and now faced economic ruin. They yearned for stability and security, and were willing to overlook Hitler's extremist views in the hope that he could deliver on his economic promises. While Hitler's hatred for Jews was deeply ingrained and formed a cornerstone of Nazi ideology, he initially downplayed his anti-Semitism when seeking broader public support. His early speeches focused primarily on economic recovery, national unity, and restoring German pride. However, the Nazi Party's inherent anti-Semitism soon manifested itself in tangible actions. In April 1933, the Nazi regime organized a nationwide boycott of Jewish businesses, urging Germans to avoid patronizing Jewish shops and services. This boycott, however, was met with mixed reactions. While some Germans, fueled by anti-Semitic propaganda, enthusiastically participated in the boycott, many others were ambivalent or even opposed to it. Some viewed the boycott as an unnecessary disruption of commerce, while others were uncomfortable with the blatant targeting of a specific religious group. The lukewarm response to the boycott revealed the limits of public tolerance for overt anti-Semitism at this early stage of Nazi rule. Hitler, ever the pragmatist, recognized the need to temper his anti-Semitic agenda, at least temporarily, and focus on consolidating his power through more palatable means. Recognizing the need to deliver on his economic promises and win over a wider swathe of the German populace, Hitler launched a massive public works program dubbed the Battle for Work. This program, overseen by Hitler's trusted lieutenant, Hermann Göring, aimed to tackle unemployment through a combination of infrastructure projects, rearmament efforts, and economic incentives. One of the most visible and enduring symbols of the Battle for Work was the construction of the Autobahn, Germany's network of high-speed highways. This ambitious project, touted as a symbol of German engineering prowess, provided employment for thousands of workers and helped to stimulate the stagnant economy. In addition to infrastructure projects, the Nazi regime also poured resources into rearmament, secretly violating the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. The production of weapons, Tanks and airplanes created jobs and boosted industries related to military production. The battle for work proved remarkably successful in reducing unemployment, which dropped dramatically in Hitler's first years in power. This success, however, came at a cost. The Nazi regime financed its spending through deficit spending and by seizing the assets of Jews and other perceived enemies of the state. Section 5. Forging a people's community, the illusion of unity. Central to the Nazi ideology was the concept of Volksgemeinschaft, or people's community. This utopian vision aimed to create a racially pure and socially harmonious society, united by a shared destiny and unwavering loyalty to the Führer. The Volksgemeinschaft served as a powerful propaganda tool, promoting a sense of belonging and national unity. It sought to transcend class divisions, urging Germans to see themselves as part of a collective whole, subsuming individual identity into a larger national identity. To foster this sense of community, the Nazi regime organized mass rallies, sporting events, and cultural festivals designed to instill a sense of shared purpose and national pride. They promoted traditional German values and virtues, extolling the importance of family, hard work, and obedience. However, the Volksgemeinschaft was ultimately a cynical illusion. The Nazis ruthlessly suppressed any form of dissent or opposition, using violence and intimidation to silence their critics. The community they created was one built on fear and conformity, not genuine unity or shared values. Section 6. The propaganda machine molding minds, manufacturing consent. The Nazis were masters of propaganda, understanding its power to shape public opinion, instill fear, and manufacture consent for their policies. They controlled all forms of media, newspapers, radio, film, and even art and literature, using them to disseminate their ideology and demonize their enemies. Joseph Goebbels, the Reich Minister of Propaganda, played a central role in shaping the Nazi message. He understood the importance of appealing to people's emotions, using simple slogans, powerful imagery, and carefully crafted narratives to bypass critical thinking and instill the desired beliefs. Nazi propaganda relentlessly promoted the cult of the Führer, portraying Hitler as a messianic figure destined to lead Germany to greatness. They glorified war and militarism, instilling in young people a sense of duty and a willingness to sacrifice for the fatherland. The Nazis also used propaganda to dehumanize their enemies, particularly Jews. They disseminated anti-Semitic stereotypes, portraying Jews as a parasitic race responsible for Germany's economic woes, social ills, and even the defeat in World War I. Section 7. Rearming the nation, the shadow of war looms large. Despite initially downplaying his expansionist ambitions, Hitler's ultimate goal was to overturn the Treaty of Versailles and establish German dominance in Europe. Central to this goal was the need to rebuild Germany's military might, a process that began in secret soon after Hitler came to power. The Nazi regime poured massive resources into rearmament, creating a vast military-industrial complex that fueled economic growth but also set the stage for future conflict. They expanded the army, air force and navy, developing advanced weaponry and training a new generation of soldiers indoctrinated in Nazi ideology. Hitler's rearmament program violated the terms of the Treaty of Versailles and drew condemnation from other European powers. However, many Western leaders, fearing the rise of communism more than German aggression, adopted a policy of appeasement, hoping to avoid another devastating war. The rearmament of Germany had profound consequences both for Germany and for the world. It transformed Germany into a military powerhouse, emboldening Hitler and setting in motion the chain of events that would lead to World War II. Section 8. From Persecution to Pogrom, the Escalation of Anti-Semitism. With his power consolidated and Germany seemingly back on track economically, Hitler escalated his campaign against Jews, moving from discrimination and persecution to outright violence and terror. Anti-Semitism, which had always been at the core of Nazi ideology, now took center stage. In 1935, the Nazi regime enacted the Nuremberg Laws, stripping Jews of their German citizenship and basic rights. These laws defined Jews not by their religion but by their ancestry, effectively making them second-class citizens, subject to a litany of discriminatory measures. Over the next few years, the persecution of Jews intensified. They were banned from certain professions, their businesses were Aryanized, and they were subjected to increasing social ostracism. Jewish synagogues and businesses were vandalized, and Jews were physically attacked with impunity. The culmination of this escalating campaign of terror came on the night of November 9th to 10th, 1938, during the Kristallnacht pogrom. Nazi paramilitaries and mobs of ordinary Germans, fueled by anti-Semitic propaganda and incited by their leaders, rampaged through Jewish communities across Germany and Austria. Section 9. Conclusion: the slippery slope of complicity and the lessons unlearned. The rise of Nazism and the horrors that followed serve as a stark warning about the dangers of unchecked hatred, the fragility of democratic institutions, and the seductive allure of extremist ideologies. It is a story of how a nation driven by economic despair, wounded pride, and manipulated by a charismatic demagogue descended into the abyss of barbarity. The period between 1933 and 1938 witnessed the gradual erosion of freedom and the normalization of hate. Step by step, the Nazis dismantled democratic institutions, suppressed dissent, and stripped away the rights of those deemed undesirable. The escalation of anti-Semitism, culminating in the horrors of Kristallnacht, stands as a chilling reminder of the dangers of indifference and the slippery slope of complicity. The silence of so many in the face of injustice allowed evil to flourish. The lessons of this dark chapter in human history are as relevant today as ever. We must remain vigilant against all forms of intolerance and discrimination, safeguard democratic values, and never forget the victims of hatred. For, as the saying goes, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it.